that's kind of coming out. But yes, behind the scene there is a lot of chemicals that could probably cause a lot of problems. Uh, yeah, so I think your business really makes sense. It really has a value, and you are really standing strong on the brand there. Like, I just wanted to make sure there is something out there which is not that highly pricey because we are not selling a pricey brand here. But at the same time, you are also strictly enforcing that the ingredients should be something that doesn't cause a problem. So I think there is a true definitive value there with the brand that you're bringing up here. So
We
first of all,
also
thanks for that.
we also know that there's like so much of a markup in the fragrance industry, right? You're so frequently just buying for the name, and through deep dives that I've done on my own podcast, a lot of times they just license the name. Like Prada Candy, we had a whole episode on. It's not even made by Prada. They just license the name, and then another company distributes it. So you're paying for a name that's just slapped on a bottle of perfume. That's ridiculous. So if you could take out all of those middlemen and all of the bullshit, you could just have good, clean fragrances at an accessible price point for people. But too many people want to say it's from Prada or Guerlain or from any of these other crazy expensive companies.
Yep. So I think you brought a very valid point here about franchises and the power of franchises that these guys are kind of using, just like the product example you brought up. Right? So typically, like even if I wanted to run a franchise, there is a price that I need to pay for the franchise's reputation that I'm trying to take in. When I can sell a copy product with a strong franchisee, it gets sold out. You know. So I believe like whatever you're bringing up kind of adds up. The brand value that you're bringing up from your end is it has a strong meaning there. If it makes sense, like yes, people love and need fragrances and perfumes, but again, you are asking them to think again from one of the perspectives like do you want to have a branded item there or do you need the fragrance there? You can do that, but you don't need to go for a big brand like Prada or Chanel or you know those big guys.
And Chanel does this crazy thing where they corner the market on a whole floral like farm in the south of France so that nobody else can use it's jasmine. But they can't use jasmine, like this certain kind of jasmine, because they work exclusively with a farm. So yeah, your stuff's gonna be expensive if you have those kind of exclusivity rights. And I think that that's crappy to other perfumers who may want to use that ingredient but can't get access to it because they're not Chanel.
Got it. So some of the interesting questions here, Melissa. So I think we will be going live in like 6 minutes. You know. So personally, like people that I know, and Injury also knows, you know, people who are like part of our organization. They are at this kind of a stage, like a confused stage, whether they wanted to continue with this 9 to 5 or they wanted to take a risk and start investing themselves into some sort of a business. And I'm telling this like people who have like 15, 16, 20, 25 plus years experience. And like people that we have been interviewing till date, we were asking this question to them like, what is that tipping point which made you decide that yes, you are an entrepreneurial material. You need to start building your business. Of course, we all start from ground zero where we have this idea. Sometimes we don't, and then we will start, building back from it. Like, okay, taking this idea, who are our customers going to be? How will we find a sales street? What is the distribution? What is like my effort that I need to put together for my first $1 million? And what is the playbook that I need to keep repeating every time so my business kind of grows and I can measure them. So these aspects are very important because people who are confused, they are confused because they don't want to spend so much money and later figuring out like they just wasted money in the wrong distribution or the wrong knowledge. so that is one of the things like we are trying to bring in experts like yourself into this podcast and trying to learn from you. Like, this is what I do. This is where I started thinking like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur in material. To make this business happen, these are the key criteria I had in my mind, and this is how I took that risk, and this is where I try to experiment things out, and this is where my outcomes were coming with. This was what my hypothesis was, and this was what my actual results were, and this is how I figured out this is the way I can kind of start marketing, selling, and finally, like when it started working, these are the days which which took me to my first $1 million or my first 100K. And this is my playbook that I repeat every single day after that, so that I can still do the revenue kind of going.
I will say I did not choose being an entrepreneur, and being an entrepreneur kind of chose me. I will say that, like, even like, I mean, I accepted the term now, but like, for a hot minute there, I was like, I am a therapist. What are you talking about?
So
Yeah, I know my company agreement is the CEO, but that's trash.
just right quick before we get started, I do want to ask, is there anything sensitive about your time in the cult that you don't want us asking about, or is there anything that you just don't want to touch as far as subjects?
Oh, hell no. Are
Okay.
you kidding me? Most of the podcasts I do, I've either talked about the fact I was in a sex fetish or the fact that I was in a cult.
Okay.
Right? So, I am
Cool.
a Leo stellium. I am all about self-disclosure.
I'm a Capricorn stellium. Okay, we gotta talk about astrology one of these days because, like, I am all
If
Saturn.
you are not manifesting today,
I
you need to get on that.
I am a manifesting generator. That's my human design, and everything that I say actually comes true. So I try to watch my mouth, and I try not to think bad thoughts or say anything bad about somebody else because Daddy Saturn definitely is really good about that disciplinary karma. So yeah, I know.
What I always say about Saturn is it's a garden, like it's a garden full of like weeds and dead plants, and we're cleaning out the garden so that new stuff can grow.
For sure.
Saturn stuff is always really difficult because I'm a Cap rising. So like, Saturn stuff is always really difficult, but then the fruits of that difficult are really good.
Saturn is kind of slow as per the horoscopes that we follow. So whichever the planetary position the Saturn is kind of there, they always tend to tell this one like, be careful. Like whenever you're taking a decision, think again.
And a bunch of people kill themselves during their Saturn return.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
Kurt Cobain, God, there's someone my mom used to love. I'm like into astrology.
Yeah, it will kind of provoke you to take a wrong decision. But if you take a step back and think again, you will get to know like what is the right decision. That is the power of Saturn.
All right, in the next few seconds, I'm gonna transition the thing over so that we're actually on the screen on the live. I dropped a new link in the chat. Gonna do the like intro thing, like, hey, thank you guys for tuning in. How do you pronounce your last name? Is it Fortner?
So legal last name is Fortner. That's what I am on Slack.
Okay.
But for the most part, I go by Sniff Your Daughter.
Sniff Your Daughter.
Close enough, but Sniff Your Daughter. So I am a Norse pagan, and Norse pagans take the last name of their primary deity that they work with.
Okay, you gotta do this. You gotta do this right quick. I'm gonna transition the thing over.
Got you.
Hello, thank you so much for tuning into the MBA Founder Podcast. Today, myself and Jerry Cooper, we're here with Sandeep, GL, and Melissa Fortner.
Hello.
So glad to have you. Okay, so we were talking earlier and you were describing what you go by. Fortner is your legal last name. Could you tell us once again about the Norse history?
So I go by Melissa Sif, your daughter. Legally, I will probably change it at some point because most people know me as Sif, your daughter. Sif is Thor's wife. She is goddess of like wheat and grain and kind of like the cash crops that people would use to have the little luxuries in life, and that goes with my brand as well. So Sif, your daughter, literally translates to daughter of Sif in Old Norse.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for going through that. Alrighty. So there were a few things in the notes that I studied before we hopped on this call, and I am completely blown away. One, by the resilience, because to have gone through some crazy off the wall stuff like that and be able to smile and joke about it uh, is a true testament of strength. So, could you tell us about your journey to entrepreneurship, being in a cult, how you landed on uh, perfume and fragrance and scent, and just everything about you? Give us your whole life story as much as you feel like sharing. And
All right, we'll be here for a hell of a long time if that's the case. But to kind of start things off, is I am a therapist by trade. I still have my license, and I'm still licensed to practice therapy in the state of Connecticut where I live. And I had worked on a PhD that focused on dance and movement therapy with adolescents diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And I thought for my entire life I'd be working with adolescents, mainly because you could get to be sarcastic with them, and they're not full-on adults. So I really like working with teens. And I during the pandemic, I was in a cult, but I was also working with teens, like kind of at the tail end of the pandemic. And while I was in the cult started off not culty. I will say that much. I think all cults kind of start with like classes and like just study groups, and then the next thing you know, you're doing drugs in the woods and thinking that you're talking to gods.
oh,
Um, which is a real thing that happens.
yeah,
Eating chicken hearts in an Airbnb in upstate New York.
okay,
Mm, yeah.
culty, yeah.
And but it was like classes for like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it was more
And
like
then
MLM, like come study with
yeah,
us,
yeah.
MLM type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just chill. You're just like learning the runes and like magic stuff, and then next thing you know, you're channeling gods by taking drugs in an Airbnb in New Paltz. Um, so what ended up happening is that while I was in the cult leader gradually started taking like more and more stuff out of my life. Whenever I would do a lot of stuff, right? Like it was always you're burnt out, which is a form of manipulation. Stephen Hassan is a cult researcher, and he has something called the bite model. And the bite model is behavior, information, thought, and emotional control. And that is a standard, although there are many standards of what defines a cult. And one of the things my cult leader did for emotional control was tell me that I was burnt out. And because I was burnt out, I am a person who loves doing a bajillion things at all times. That's just who I am as a person. I would much rather be burnt out than bored. I know this about myself. I should probably work on it in therapy. That's not going to happen.
That's Capricorn
Uh,
rising. That's me too. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, it's just not, no. I will work until I'm dead, and then I will probably try to do something in the afterlife in order to like make sure I get to some other level, right? Um, So anytime I was quote unquote burnt out, even though I did not feel that way, I had to gradually drop things from my life. And we had this one event in North Carolina where the overall takeaway was you need to quit your job. And when I quit my job, because of course you do what the cult leader tells you to do, right? And my kids were all sad about it. We had like the prom, and I got to see like some of my teens in tuxes, and it made me like really weepy on the inside. And I was like, okay, well now I'm bored and I need to do something. And everybody had a company except me. They were all like small. We sell at craft fairs. Like one did candles, one had like cookies, and the cult leader made like jewelry sometimes. So they were like, hey, you've liked perfume forever. We have this friend that like we knew named B, who is now my podcast co-host on Sillage and Sorcery. And I was constantly giving B like, hey, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. And even B was like, Melissa, you need to make your own perfume. So when you're getting the same message from everybody all the time, I have a very inappropriate term for that, but I'm not going to say it because this is connected to where I pay to go to school. So think of, inappropriate terms of things coming at you from all different directions, and you'll get it. Uh, I eventually started a fragrance company. It's one of the main reasons why I left. And then I started getting more and more traction with the brand. And it took us so we were at revenue very quickly. We made our first 1,000 in the first month as a company. And then we've already made over 100K since we've launched, because it's just kind of been more like I go more places, more people find me, and it just starts rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. We were profitable, I think, like 2 weeks after I started going to One Day. And I came into One Day even because I had this already existing brand, and I was like, this is an opportunity and I don't want to waste it, but I don't know what the hell I'm doing because I'm a therapist that has been presented with a really good company that I don't want to kind of fall to the wayside.
Awesome. That's astounding. What was it like to get, that first 1,000 customers or that first $100,000? Like, what did you have a brand deal? Did you get placed in Walmart? Like, what were some of those key things that helped you scale very quickly?
Well, for me, I think the biggest thing is doing events. I do events all over the country. Like literally, I'm doing one next weekend. And we have like the gauntlet coming up in April where I will be doing something out of state until the middle of July. So I'll be pretty much on the road solidly for 3 months, which is great for mileage on my car, but that is for a completely different day. And I think finding opportunities to interact with people is really important. I think my second week, I kept messing up my one-to-one with my mentor because I wasn't aware that like time zones are a thing, that like I'd be driving and I wouldn't know what time zone I would be in when I scheduled the meeting with the mentor. So I had to be like, hey, can we like change this back like an hour? Because I'm gonna have to like drive for 12, and I thought I'd be in this time zone and I was in Eastern when I scheduled it, and now I'm in Mountain Standard Time and everything's confusing. Um, so I think like getting to a place where you can get your face and your brand in front of as many people as possible. I also found for myself kind of like what events and what places were more accepting to what I was producing. And I think in the One Day program, we talk about customer discovery and we talk about like our ideal customer profile and all of that sort of thing. When you're doing that, I was just doing it with like actually being on the road. Like I know that if I do an event in New York City, because I've done multiple in Manhattan at this point, because I live so close, I will do trash. But if I go to Dubuque, Iowa, I will do great. I will sell out of stuff in Dubuque, Iowa. Um, so like knowing kind of, okay, this is where my customers are, and then kind of tailoring your brand and your events and everything to kind of like them and focusing on who loves you already.
No, I think that's really interesting. I haven't heard anybody else say that in person events is how they find a lot of their customers. because I did the exact same thing a month ago. I did just one event, and like my calendar has kind of been full ever since. Like, I'm building a SaaS, so I have all of my design partners already lined up that I'm working really closely with to help make the SaaS into what I think it should be or what they think it should be. So, really true. Like, in person events are the way to go. It's the only way to get a steady stream of people to talk to because it's people in your face. Now, when you say in person events, are you like doing pop up shops? Are you like, what type of event is it?
Oh, I'm doing I one of my biggest partners with events that I do is called the Gothic Market. So I do the Gothic Market, I do Ren fairs all over the country. Some of them are Viking leaning because I have such like a Norse inspired brand. I do reading like book conventions, like I'm doing Enchanticon this year. I did StokerCon, which is for the Horror Writers Association last year. Like I do anything that's moderately spooky and has people who like have most of their wardrobe consisting of the color black are my people, and that's where I will find a way to show up
When did you start school? August.
with what.
Is it
Yeah.
you started in like Augusty type of thing?
Yep.
Nice. I was thinking about how Halloween and like spooky season, how did that affect your brand as far as growth? Did you notice a significant increase of like people posting you online or more events because it's, spooky season event time? Like, were you significantly overwhelmed and too booked and busy for Halloween?
I Okay. So I will say for Halloween, I did try some new markets that didn't love me as much as I thought that they might.
Oh, wow.
And it was an interesting experience because I think every event I go to is a learning curve. Like if you would have told me when I started this company that the state that loves me the most and the state that I make the most money from and have the most sales in is Utah, I would have punched you in the face for being such a liar,
Right.
right? But the Midwest, like my second biggest state is Ohio. And I live in Connecticut and regularly do events in like Connecticut, New York, New Jersey. Still, I went to Ohio once. Okay? I've gone to Utah once. I get an order every week from
Mm-hmm.
Utah, right? Um and I think that like I would have never known that unless I drove the 34 hours from Connecticut because you can't check perfume, guys. You can't check perfume and you can't ship large amounts of it because it's considered flammable. So every
Mm-hmm.
time I do these events, I gotta drive. Um, so I found out in the South when you have a fragrance called the Hangman, which is named after the tarot card,
Mm-hmm.
does not do well because they have a not great history with hanging.
Very true.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I didn't think of that because like I was just like, oh, it's a tarot card, and like I have this whole like Odin theme to it because Odin hung himself from Yggdrasil, and then I get to the south and they're like, yeah, hanging is a completely different level here. We're not buying that one, regardless of how much we like it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can kind of like learn and be like, oh, okay, this is not something I originally anticipated. And I understand why it's impacting my sales. So now I need to like learn and adjust and not fully pivot, but like iterate in a way that I can still appeal to these customers and not, offend them with some of my fragrance names.
Like A/B test the name. Like in the South, we're just gonna call it something else. Running Man, something like
Well, I
that.
have to kind of have it like I can't change the website for Louisiana, but I can be like, okay, well, people really like a bergamot fragrance. So maybe instead of just having the hangman, I can have another bergamot fragrance that doesn't have, hanging connotations.
Right.
And maybe that one will do better in the South. And the next time I go to the South, I'll bring extra of that particular product.
Very true. No, that's actually really enlightening. That was one of the lessons in in the curriculum. It was like for the name of the organization. That's a month ago. About for me, I started in August too. It was like you want to kind of test culturally if your name is anything derogatory in any cultures. Like they were thinking more of an international business sense, like what does it mean in this country versus another country, and the definitions of things and the spellings of things and the history of that word. So that was top of mind for me when I was naming Subvent. I was like, sub, we have so many things that start with the word sub, substack, sub, whatever. Like, it's a huge tech word. Um,
If you go on FetLife, there's a whole bunch of stuff connected to subs that you
right.
might not necessarily want to be connected to either.
Very true. I haven't checked the name of my organization against those type of like colloquial terms in different types of communities. I kind of was thinking just global when I came up with that name. In I think founders might make that mistake sometimes. We don't look at every lens and every aspect because we're just one person. Like, how could we know that? How do we know? Uh, at some point, you gotta take your idea and just go with it. 30 something hour drive. That's a really long
Yeah.
drive. Do you have a partner that you take with you on those types of trips when you go what coast to coast from wherever you're driving from and to?
Audible. I take Audible with me. That's the partner that I
Oh
go on
wow.
34-hour drives.
Yeah.
I bang out some audiobooks and then I bang out their sequels and the drive back. But the drive
Nice.
back is usually quicker. Well, the drive there, you're like going with the time zones.
Hmm.
So it's not quicker, but it feels quicker because the time you like lose an hour each day you drive.
For sure.
But coming back, you're not bringing as much stuff with you. So
You just
you're
feel like
popping 90 on I-80 for 1,000 miles.
that doesn't sound safe. It's snowy
Well,
out.
everybody is driving 90 on I-80 because it's you and like three trucks who are all in the right lane. They're in the right lane. You can just be in the left lane and it's just you and
You're audible.
that's it.
Take
And my
the
Audible.
mm, wow. Sandeep, do you have any questions? Anything to say?
Yep, yep. Hey, Melissa. So I was just patiently listening to what you have been telling. So you are the chosen one, the chosen founder, I would say. All the signals were
For the
leading
love
you
of the
in the
God, please do not.
and in terms of your sales, you were pretty sure about what customer niche you are going behind because I am still kind of bidding through multiple options there to see like which is the right customer fit I can go with. But you already knew like this is the type of customer whom you want to sell. So that's a win. Like that's a win on day one itself. Like since you know your customer pretty clear. And like going across the country to figure out like conducting those events and finding your customers where you have more demand, the demand testing that we are doing now, you also kind of excelled in that. So my question is more like when you started this perfume business, you were pretty solid on your customer base, right?
I think I learned my customer base as I went along, right?
Okay.
It's kind of like one of the things that I kind of took away from the customer discovery section of the program is that you're constantly interacting with people who could, if you're in my industry, which is CPG, right? Anybody could be a customer. Both of you guys technically could be a customer if you really wanted to smell like some of my fragrances. Um, so kind of like listening to that feedback and understanding the trends that you're getting from your customers, seeing kind of like who's purchasing, who's interested in not purchasing, who's interested and then ends up purchasing, what are they purchasing, what are they asking for. At all of my events, when people come up to me, I'm always like, what would you like to smell like? And people always laugh and they're like, oh, that's such like a funny question. But them giving me what they want to smell like is great for future releases. So if everybody is telling me, oh, I really want to smell like vanilla and musk, damn right that my next collection is going to have vanilla and musk. If I'm getting that from 50% of all of the people who come into my booth to talk to me at an event, absolutely. I'm going to take that feedback, process it, and be like, okay, this is what people are looking for, and then adjust it for future collections if it's not something that's already available.
Okay, I think my next question was like, how do you make sure there is a competition? And you already mentioned that if it is not something that's already available.
Yeah.
So on all the fragrances that you have there in your perfumes, right? Is that always unique? Like you feel like you're pretty sure like some other brand doesn't have the same same combination or same smell, or is it like you have something that already others in the market also have?
So I formulate all of my own fragrances. So everything's been made by me. But what I will say is that kind of like how if you get like a million monkeys on a typewriter, some of them will type Shakespeare. There's a lot of perfume in the world. And I did find, like, I want to say 6 months ago, I was going into Sephora and there is a fragrance that smells almost exactly like one of my fragrances. And that fragrance came out in 2008. I did not smell it prior to creating my own. And there is one keynote that is different. I have chocolate and they have coffee instead. But everything else is exactly the same, and it smells almost exactly the same because coffee and chocolate don't smell all that different from one another. And that one was being sold for $185 for a 1.7 ounce or 50 milliliter bottle. My 1.7 50 milliliter is $50. So
Okay.
while I do think that, like, yes, there will be fragrances that just because of the way that world works and what sells and what doesn't sell, it's kind of like I had one person who came into my booth who really wanted something like hardcore animalic, and I was like, you need to go to zoologist because I don't make that because I need to make stuff that sells. But there are niche brands that like make that sort of a thing and go to them. Because we're all kind of like vying after people who buy perfume and want something that smells good, there's inherently going to be things that smell very similar. And you kind of have to, as long as I know that I'm formulating my stuff and I can say, like, this is the story behind this fragrance, I'm okay with having something that sells really similar. And also, I know my stuff's going to be cheaper anyway.
Got it. So, yeah, so I think that strategy kind of explains like $180 to $50. It's a way different margin, and so one thing I need to ask you again is like, yes, there is a lot of brands out there, and yes, we have like okay, perfume is something that most of the customers are trying to buy. So there is a definitely a market for perfume, without any doubt. I know like some people just go behind the brands and some people just go behind the smell. So they keep exploring. So how do you figure out like this is my customer base, meaning these are the guys who are really behind the smell and they may be looking for something cheaper and better. So how you kind of figure out this is exactly how I can get connected to that specific niche of customer?
Well, I think for me, I'm obsessed with perfume. It's why our podcast, Sillage and Sorcery, does all these deep dives into the fragrance industry. So I knew that there was this big gap between Bath and Body Works and most fragrances.
Mhm.
Now it's a little different because I feel like there's a lot of companies at a mid price point that are outsourcing stuff to like the United Arab Emirates, and like
Mhm.
there's a whole bunch of like perfumery around Dubai, and they tend to be in similar price points to where I'm at, but a lot of them are not clean.
Mhm.
And I think that like that is a big difference. So you really have to look at your industry and
Mhm.
say, okay, there's low price points like Bath and Body Works.
Mm-hmm.
There's clean brands, right? There's brands with a spooky vibe. There's brands that have like two of those things. Like Heretic is a brand that I would mildly consider my competition, even though I think I'm better. But Heretic is very expensive, but they're clean and they're spooky, right? They also like collab with the movie Nosferatu, so they have a bunch of like really dark, spooky goth stuff. But there was nothing that had all three. And I think like really knowing your industry gets you to a place where you can find that like small gap that you can just market the shit out of. Because there's tons of people who want Heretic but can't afford it. There's tons of people who want clean fragrance and can't afford it. There's tons of people who want something spooky, right? Or maybe they have only thought about Bath and Body Works, right? So having
Mm-hmm.
that kind of like little niche by examining the whole fragrance market really gives you a leg up on everything else that's out there.
Got it. Yeah, I could be a bit dumb here, but just wanted to ask maybe like a bit more, so there is like this niche of customers, right? And they're kind of hanging around. And you mentioned like people, there are like Bath and Body Works, and there are like this high brand items. Uh, there is like cheap materials coming from, Bath and Body Works, let's say, like because you pay very less to them, and the ones whom you are paying more, they do have chemicals, but you have to pay even more to get the ones that have minimal chemicals there. But is there any specific places where people used to discuss about this, or maybe like a farmers market kind of a place where you see like, okay, I see more customers are coming to the fragrance, they wanted to try something, so this is where I need to start focusing on, start building this set of perfumeries and start going to this kind of markets and selling them out, because you need to know where your customers are before you get there and start your sales, right?
And I did not. I
Okay.
think that that's one of the things that one day really does teach is like,
Mhm.
don't do that. Like what I like I absolutely have had some markets where I do poorly at craft fairs. I do
Mhm.
poorly at craft fairs because a lot of them are boomers who are
Mhm.
trying to sell stuff that they crochet. And a lot of boomers have the same fragrance that they've used for the last 40 years.
Mhm.
Or they have a fragrance that got discontinued 20 years ago and they're still butthurt about it. So I know that like my ICP is 35 and under,
Mhm.
30 ideally and under, right? If you're 19, I love you, right? If you're 65, you're probably not. I mean, every once in a while, I do get someone. There was someone in her like 50s who traveled an hour and a half to yell at me for discontinuing one of my limited edition fragrances. But for the most part, I know that like I'm not going to go there because I've done so many where it has done poorly because it's been mostly people over the age of 65 who don't buy from me. Right. So before you go to the event and you haul your stuff for an hour and a half over the Throgs Neck Bridge, you could just learn that ahead of time by doing things like customer discovery, seeing what your ICP is. I kind of had to learn that the hard way, and a lot of times being outside in a tent while doing so.
Okay, so here is another interesting question for you. Typically, success for a business is when your customers go out and start putting a good word of mouth recommendation, about the product. But the best part about perfumery is like you don't need to talk about that. As long as you are nearby and you already put the perfume on, someone will notice. So your target customers between 19 and 30, I believe they are kind of hanging around a lot with other people, and in a way, if they put your perfume on, people start noticing and they will start asking, like, hey, from where did you get this one? And it's a direct marketing. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And it's interesting because I like paid some influencers there's a website where you can like work with influencers and get their information and give them like a contract and stuff like that. And I like got these influencers. I paid like made these whole like PR packages and sent it out. I got no sales from them. I found this like random chick at a fair who just happened to be a bookstagrammer. And I was like, hey, I'm trying to work with some influencers for our brand. And she was like, oh, absolutely. If you could give me like a discount code, I'd appreciate. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I'll give you like the same amount of whatever the discount is. I would pay you in like a commission. And she was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And now like every 2 months, she's posting stuff about how awesome my brand is. And that's from like a completely organic like circumstance. I have another customer who bought something of mine at a fair, and her aunt in Florida was up. She was in New Hampshire. Her aunt in Florida was up, smelt it on her. And then the aunt in Florida bought 2 bottles before she even went back to Florida. Then I started getting a whole bunch of orders around the same area in Florida. And I was like, oh, great. I did nothing to get this customer and get all of these other customers based on that one customer who took my stuff to Florida.
Got it. So I think my fundamental lessons on marketing is gradually working out.
Yeah, it's just like sometimes you have to just wait for that to happen. I
Right.
think there's so much stuff now that you see all these companies go, you hear about unicorns, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we all talk about it. We all want to be a unicorn, but that's not really realistic, right? And I think having almost 100K in my first full calendar year is crazy. And that is an accomplishment in itself. Is it going to be in Harvard Business Review? Probably not. Right?
Mhm.
But it's not something to kind of sneeze at, especially if I'm just under 100K in one calendar year. I'm over 100K like overall in revenue sales. But if that continues for 2026, and then if I can build off of that for 2027, I'm not going to be a unicorn, but I'm sure as shit going to be sustainable. And I'm going to have something that I can build into the future into something that is long lasting.
Yeah. So maybe in one couple of sentences, I can put it in this way, right? Getting a unicorn is something that we all, whoever is stepping into the world of entrepreneurship is dreaming about. But including the guys that we are taking reference, like Elon Musk, they have started. And I believe like the story that I read about Elon Musk is more like in his initial days of SIP, I believe he and his brother was just building the software, but they hired a bunch of sales guys based on like getting them paid or commission or something based on the sales that they are making, because they were not. I don't think they were pretty sure about the sales part, but that was a lesson learned from their end on like what really matters when it comes to selling an idea. And I think he did his lesson very well. And with X.com and further with Tesla and Starlink, we can see like how those lessons are well taken. I believe similar stories there for Jeff Bezos and other unicorns that we have today. So I think like our first entrepreneurial journey is all about learning where you need to spend and where you are already good at and where you need to spend your time doing more research. Is that right?
And also knowing kind of like what you yourself are good at and is worth for you to invest in.
Right.
Right? I think like I'm shit at photography, but I also know that Instagram and TikTok are big social media sources to help me with my brand, right? Like having a social media presence on those 2 platforms specifically, Facebook, I tank because once again, I don't do well with boomers. But I think like knowing that those 2 platforms are so video and photo heavy, I'm gonna pay the extra money to make sure my photography is on point. Right? My photographer is freaking great. and an Olympian. So that's awesome for her too. So shout out April if you're listening for some reason. But I think like knowing, okay, this is where you suck, so invest extra money into that is really going to kind of like get you to the next level. I
Mm.
can make my own boxes. I was folding boxes today for like an hour and a half, right? I can do that. I can eventually like work up, maybe have like some minimum wage employee to do something like that. But that is something, a skill I need that I know I lack. I will outsource that and I will pay good money for it. That's important because you have to check your ego at the door, and not a
Mm.
lot of people like doing that.
Got it. Makes sense. Yeah, I can just take this whole podcast session on marketing, so I just wanted to make sure I give some room for Injury if she has some questions there.
No, so I've just been listening too. I wanted to ask, like, one, cool, you have a Olympian photographer. How did you find her? Was she your photographer before you started with the course curriculum, or did you guys already have that partnership worked out?
She's a freelance that also works for my mentor. So my
Awesome.
mentor was just like, hey, I know that you're struggling with photography. I have a photographer that we hire. If you want, check out like her thing and try her out. And I was like, all right. I was like, I've got nothing to lose. I have zero photographers lined up.
Yeah.
Might as well. And now she's baller. And we've been hiring her to kind of do the past collections so
Mm,
that all our collections now are more uniform.
for sure.
Because having a photo box on my dining room table was not the way to go.
Yeah, I'm
It's
sure.
not.
Okay, okay. So it's almost like, I don't know, what Olympic sport did she play? Because I like the
Surfing.
Olympics. Surfing? I have no
Surfing.
idea. I don't have any questions about surfing. If you said weightlifting, I would have been like, oh, a type of lift, all those type of things. I don't know jack squat about surfing, but that sounds really cool. No, like I have to do a lot of research about it. So we have a question from the audience.
Ooh.
Um, no, my spouse is actually gothic, so like this is on brand for me by proxy. My spouse wants to know what is your personal favorite scent that embodies, in your opinion, the gothic aesthetic. So, what have you made that's just like this is what goth smells like?
Hellberger. It's so easy. That's the easiest question. I got like all nervous if it was going to be cult related. No. Hellveger is my fragrance that I think is like peak goth.
Mm.
It's also the one that when I go to non-gothy events scares customers away. Hellveger means the road to hell in Old Norse.
Nice.
Hel is a goddess in Norse mythology. She is half dead and half living, so her face is like kind of split in half. She's associated with roses. So it's a very rose heavy fragrance, but it also has burning wood from Viking funeral pyres, and dirt. And roses, dirt, and wood people freaking love, especially like the hardcore goths that are like all in black all the time. They love Hellveger. I love giving them Hellveger. It brings me joy, and it's such a fun gothy fragrance. It's actually what got me into One Day in my first interview with the mentor, because I said how I had this fragrance called Hellveger, and I knew that goths really liked it and that it was like my gothy fragrance, but it's a corporate goth fragrance. You could still wear it at a corporate job
Yeah.
or wear it and your shift as a barista at Starbucks, and no one's going to look at you weird because it's so rose heavy, right? So it can be that like you asserting your own identity in an area where you can't be covered in fishnets, white and black makeup, right?
Right.
And I think that that's one of the things that's really great about working with the art of perfumery is that it is an expression of yourself in a way that can be a little bit more incognito than some of the other outward expressions of your identity.
I actually feel like, in my own personal experience, perfume and smell, like having that signature scent, is a huge part of identity. Like, I don't think I'll go anywhere without smelling like how I smell. What what do you wear? Is that what you wear most often? Is that your favorite thing that you like to wear?
I wear stuff in development. So
Mm.
I'm constantly kind of like right now I'm wearing something that I'm testing out for the spring summer collection. I don't 100% love it, so I think I'll probably reformulate it. But one of the things I have on my website is never tested on animals, tested on our founder.
Nice.
Because I am always testing, like I gave myself a chemical burn from cinnamon essential oil,
No.
which you're not supposed to use. It's not IFRA compliant. IFRA is the International Fragrance Regulatory Association.
Nice.
It's not IFRA compliant anyway. So I don't know. I mean, I was just like, it's cinnamon oil. It's what do you mean it causes chemical burns?
Now you're
And
like,
then yeah, I
now I
gave
know.
myself one.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, like I think I'm constantly testing out stuff. I usually, when I'm doing an event, I'll wear the seasonal limited edition, because that's usually like the newest one. It's nice and seasonal. People tend to get that one. It's my seasonals are constantly changing, but they're always big sellers. So I'm either wearing a seasonal limited edition if I'm at an event, or if I'm at home, I am wearing something I'm developing.
Do you have any like recurring seasonal things like a Krampus Day type of odor that comes out only in the month of December? Like anything like that?
No, so all of my releases come on like a fairly regular basis. I have two big permanent collections, the fall, winter, and spring, summer, and they come out on the equinox. So either the
Nice.
fall equinox or the spring equinox. And all of my limited editions go from either the solstice to the equinox, or the equinox to the solstice. So like the actual time of the season. The only one I release ahead of time is the winter limited edition, because everybody wants their Christmas shit like right after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Um, and also I take off in the month of January from events so that I can like organize, find more events, and kind of plan for spring, summer, fall, which is when stuff is crazy for me. Um, so to give the winter limited edition a chance. But exploring, I think because pagans are always so connected to the cycles of the earth, having a different take for every season is really fun for me. So, as much as I would love to bring back some of the seasonal limited editions, which
Yeah.
maybe I'll work on, for anybody who really loves my brand who's listening, I might have something like that. But really making something new for each season has me looking at that season with a different kind of lens. Like my first summer limited edition was like a nice beachy one. It was like rum and cherry, and it had like a little bit of coconut, and it really gave you that like cool beach sunscreen vibe. And then my most recent summer limited edition was Boardwalk. So it was cotton candy, grape soda, cherry. Like it was the boardwalk of your dreams as a kid. Like you could smell the beach, but it was mostly like all of the crap food that was being fried in a tent by some kid from high school covered in zits, right? Like it was your childhood nostalgia in a bottle. And both of those are still summer, right? But
True.
they're very different expressions of summer, and that I really like playing with when it comes to each seasonal limited edition.
I know you said your brand is for the people who are in all black all the time, but what about the white goths? What about the slightly cottage core, woodland fairy odors? Do you
Oh
have
yeah,
anything similar to
I,
that?
I do great at Ren fairs. Ren fairs are like my people. I love them to death. So yeah, I have a ton of stuff. I have a green elf,
Nice.
which if you come into my booth and you have like orange or green or blue hair, I'm recommending you to smell green elf. But Green Elf is also my take on the 90s. So it's everything that was trending in perfumes in the 90s with a base of Gap Grass. So I actually found out like what they were using for Gap Grass and I
Right.
tried to emulate it. So it's everything that was trending in perfume in the 90s. So you've got like, pear and strawberry and gardenia and honeysuckle. And then the base is that similar smell to Gap Grass. So it's very much that like cottage core fairy kind of a scent.
What do you call somebody like yourself who mixes these fragrances? Like the only word I can think of is like a sommelier, but like for noses. But what's the proper term? What would you call yourself?
We're literally just perfumers.
Perfumers.
That is the technical term, is being a perfumer. And the art is called perfumery. So the only reason why I always say that, or I try to say that I have a fragrance brand instead of perfume, is because perfume tends to be gendered,
Right.
right? I get people who come into my booth all the time that are like, oh, is this perfume or cologne? And I'm like, all of my scents have been bought by every single gender.
Mm.
And like I'm one of my fragrances called Freya's Kiss, I made and thought it was like this really traditionally feminine leaning fragrance. First bottle went to a dude. Then I made Thor's Day because I was like, oh, I'm gonna like corner the men's market. And that one's like smoke and leather and rum and it's like tobacco. It's gonna be like such a dude fragrance. First bottle went to a chick. So now I'm not gonna tell you what to do.
Right.
And like we have the Hangman, that's our number one top seller since it launched. And like you would think that the name alone would turn women off. Absolutely not. No, it's about 50-50 for people on the Hangman. It's about 50-50 for, I would say, about 75% of my fragrances.
So the Hangman is based off of like tarot cards. Do you have any other tarot themed scents currently, or is that the only one that
I have a tarot card in every collection.
Awesome. Just one tarot
So
card? You don't have like a whole this is tarot fragrance line. Like you have like the devil, the lovers, the seven of
I have the
cups.
lovers. The lovers inspiration is actually banger. So the lovers is 5 different kinds of musk because musk is deer testicles.
Okay.
And not, I don't use deer testicles. It's synthetic musk. Cashmere and clean linen because it's inspired by the morning after. So you're in the sheets, right? That's the cashmere and the linen, right? We've got the blankets and then we've got the musk from whatever we were doing from the night before.
I love that. All right. So can you name drop your URL? What's your link?
It's just sifsniffs.com. So,
Sifsniffs.com.
and if we need spelling, it's SIFSNIFFS.com.
I love it.
And if you want, I'll make a discount code for my one day folks.
I would love
Um,
that. That would be amazing. Now we have something to like drop in all of the channels and to put on social media. I love that so
yeah,
much.
I'll do it after this, but it's one day 15. So I'll put that on. I'm making a note for myself to do that today. But do one day 15 and you will get 15% off your order.
Amazing. All right, I just pulled up your website. These look so
Yeah,
fun.
we just transferred over to Shopify because I didn't have one day when I started. So I started everything on Squarespace. And now that I switched over to Shopify, that's actually been some of the testing that I've been doing to see if having Shop Pay as an item for checkout will impact sales and impact my conversion rate. So we'll see how that does because I don't particularly like Shopify. I like Squarespace better, but I also know that a lot of people use Shop Pay because it's in everything, especially in CPG like I am.
Yeah, so I'm guilty of that. I love Shop Pay because like it already has all my stuff in there and it already has my card on there. And I'll also use like an Apple Pay. It doesn't matter what kind of pay it is. I just don't want to have to type my card in again. So I'm very interested to know how that affects your sales too. Like I
Yeah.
might just check in 3 months like, hey, how's that Shop Pay going? Because I hate Shopify too.
Yeah, I think it's going to impact it a lot, which I'm like, I don't want to have to deal with your Shopify, but that's okay.
I
If
have
you're making me money, I'll love you.
another question about your scents. Like, even though I'm on the site, it's like I have to ask, do you have any smells that's like little baby Jesus? Like, I like frankincense or myrrh. So that's me. I love the frankincense or myrrh. I love Zoom Clean. Like, I use like laundry detergent as my odor for the most point. And a particular odor called Kush. It's like a dark amber type of oil. Um I don't really find it very often. I have to get this off like Amazon, but it's very musky. That's all I can say. That's all I know to say. That and a
So
frankincense or myrrh.
I will go for two different ones
Okay.
for you. And seriously, just hit me up offline, send me your info, and I'll just send it to you. But the two I would say is either the Star, which is a tarot card, and that one's lavender, chamomile, cannabis, cocoa, and patchouli.
You had me at lavender. Yes.
Right? So it's a very lavender heavy, but it also has that like sweetness.
Mm-hmm.
Or scrying mirror. And scrying mirror is my personal favorite. It took me 4 collections to just put everything I like in perfume in a perfume. And that's scrying mirror. And scrying mirror is a bunch of like dark berries. So it's blackberry and black currant and mulberry. But then it also has like poppy, amaretto, and it's like this nice saffron is also in the heart of it, but then the base is just really good with like the oud and patchouli, and it gives it this like nice like dark warmth. It's a very like dark warm fragrance. And usually if people come into my booth and they're like, because everybody asks me to vibe check them. It's like
Yeah.
a thing because I deal with a lot of witches. So everybody's just like, oh, check my vibe and give me a scent based off of my vibe. If you're like not full goth, but you're
Mm-hmm.
still kind of dark, I usually recommend Scrying Mirror for those kind of people because it's like a dark, spooky, but not like straight up dirt and roses.
Before I told on myself, what would my vibe check had been?
Midnight Margaritas.
Midnight margaritas. What? Okay, what does that smell like?
Well, Midnight Margaritas is inspired by practical magic. So
Okay.
it's got everything from the saying, because we plant rosemary bar at Garden Gate, we plant lavender for luck, we throw salt over our left shoulder.
Yeah.
So it's got everything, and it also has lime and coconut, because we put the lime in the coconut when we have Midnight Margaritas. And so many people buy it just based off of that alone. Sandeep, you're either the lovers or the hangman. But I have one coming out in the spring collection that choice for you. I'm actually wearing it today.
Can we know the name
uh,
of it, or are you still working on the name?
I've not announced it yet.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So I will say it is. I'm looking at the name of it in my tester bottle right screwed down. But I'll say it's named after a god.
Okay.
And I will say it's similar to my Freya's Kiss fragrance, except slightly more masculine leaning. That is a
Nice.
joke. That is a Norse mythology joke that if people know their Norse mythology, they will yuck hard when I announce the god for my spring summer collection.
No, I'm really excited. Really excited to know. I don't know very much about Norse mythology or any mythologies at all. So sorry. I don't understand the jokes.
It's okay. It's totally fair.
All
Not
right.
everybody can be, that like weird kid who was studying the Greeks and reading Percy Jackson in middle school. We
Well,
can't all be that kid.
I was in the Greek mythology class. I did it academically. I don't remember anything from it. I took the test to make a A, but it didn't stick. I'm so sorry.
Well, so my podcast co-host B, their fragrance company is Venus Invictus. So everything is like all of them are named after a Greek deity, which is pretty cool.
Nice. I wish we had more time because I would definitely want to dive into some astrology and talk about some more things.
Talk about my Leo stellium and the fact that it is a Capricorn new moon today.
I love that for us as Capricorn risings. Here we
Yeah.
are. Sandy, what's your
That I will say the Capricorn rising part of my chart is the part I think is inherent in every entrepreneur. I think having heavy Capricorn placements is what you need to have in order to be an entrepreneur. Because I know someone who has most of my big three, but a different rising,
Yeah.
like is also a Pisces moon and a Leo sun. And they are a clusterfuck of a person. So I'm like, oh, I love my Cap rising because that
It balances
really
you.
helps me do the thing.
Yeah.
Because to have like that chaotic creative energy that is so associated with Leo and Pisces and not have a way to funnel that is a nightmare.
I have 6 Capricorn placements and 9 Saturn placements in total. Very Saturned out. Just level. Just all the way around.
I have 8, no, I think I have 9 placements in fire signs. And I have a grand fire trine. So I am a fiery ass bitch. Or which, if I'm in public and talking to my customers.
I gotta
But
ask
yeah.
you for practical advice because I'm too chill. I'd be like, let's just leave. No, I need some more fire energy. Definitely gonna be hitting you up after this for a separate call. But we usually close these things out with a question that you would ask either yourself at a different stage in your life or a founder that doesn't know they're a founder, like that kid in middle school that doesn't realize, what their purpose is and they're doing all these weird things. Like, what's something that you would say to someone who might be teetering on the edge of becoming an entrepreneur or a founder but just doesn't know?
I think it was my second meeting with my mentor who said something that he had to remind me in my most recent one-to-one. That I think is probably the best piece of advice I've gotten from the entire one-day program, which is being an entrepreneur can take up the entirety of your life. And if you give any kind of emotional investment into this company or really want it to succeed, it will become your entire life. So you have to find those moments that bring you joy and seize on them, even if they are small. Like when I was driving across the country, I was so mad that I couldn't stop in Wyoming because I've always wanted to go to Wyoming. It's such a random state for me to like be obsessed with. But I did the Laramie Project when I was in college, and ever since then, I'd always wanted to go to Laramie and like stay in Wyoming and like the whole thing. So I drove 16 hours when I was driving to Salt Lake City so that I could stay in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And I loved it. I like went to a Barnes and Noble in Cheyenne and I like bought the book from like the local history section of the Barnes and Noble. And I remember just being like, okay, this is making the 34-hour drive there and the 34-hour drive back kind of worth it because at least I could say I'm checking off this bucket item. I also like held my pee for an hour so that I could pee in West Virginia because I hadn't stopped in West Virginia and I wanted to like check it off of like states that I'd visited. So I like held my pee just so I could pee in West Virginia. And having those kind of moments can really make all of the travel, all of the work, all of these like 20-hour days that you're putting into your company feel a little bit worth it and keep you going to like the next gauntlet that you're doing where you're traveling across the country with nobody except your audible narrator in your ear.
I love that. Since you keep mentioning Audible, what was the last book you listened to, or what do you listen to right now?
Well, you keep wanting me to spoil the spring summer collection, but I'm really into Throne of Glass,
Oh, okay.
which is big on the book talk, and I find it very inspiring. because there's a lot of scent descriptions in that book. So, you know, maybe I've felt inspired by reading the Throne of Glass series, which is crazy long. And I'm on the last book of the series now. But maybe I find that very inspiring. And maybe there's some scents that are associated with that book series.
All right. Thank you so much for giving us the spoilers here on the MBA Founder Podcast. It was a pleasure having you, and we absolutely have to have you back. But for now, we've run out of time, and we want people to be able to go pee if they have to pee at home. Thank you for tuning in.
They don't want to hold it until going to West Virginia to pee in like a Wendy's.
Absolutely.